The Harrison mansion glittered under the warm glow of chandeliers, laughter echoing through its marble halls. It was a night of celebration. Charles Harrison, a self-made millionaire, had just closed a deal that would place his company among the top names in Manhattan. His wife, Catherine, elegant and composed, played the perfect hostess as guests mingled in luxury. Yet, the heart of their world wasn't the fortune or the mansion. It was their 8-year-old daughter, Emily. Emily was sunshine in human form, adored not just by her parents, but by everyone who met her. That night, dressed in a pale blue gown, she darted around the garden, chasing fireflies with the carefree innocence only a child could carry. Guests smiled at her giggles, unaware that within hours those sounds would turn into screams. As the evening wound down and guests departed, Charles went to check on Emily. The garden was still. A soft breeze rustled the leaves, but no sign of his daughter appeared. He called her name once, twice, louder each time, but silence answered back. Panic replaced celebration. Servants searched the mansion, the gardens, even the nearby roads. Catherine's voice broke into sobs as she shouted for her little girl. Charles dialed the police, hands trembling. But before the call connected, the house phone rang. The sound sliced through the chaos like a knife. Charles picked up. A deep, rough voice crackled over the line. "Don't bother calling the cops. We have your daughter. If you want to see her alive, prepare $5 million. Tomorrow night, we'll tell you where to bring it." The phone clicked dead, leaving nothing but static. Catherine collapsed to her knees, clutching her chest as if her heart might tear apart. Charles stood frozen, the weight of fatherhood and helplessness crushing him. For the first time in his life, the man who controlled empires realized there were battles money alone couldn't fight. Somewhere out there, his daughter cried in the dark, surrounded by men who saw her life as a bargaining chip, and far away in the shadows of a forgotten forest, fate was quietly moving a piece onto the board. An unlikely savior, a man society had cast aside, was about to cross paths with the Harrisons in a way none of them could have imagined. The kidnappers had chosen their hideout well. Deep in the forest, far from the city lights, an old farmhouse stood in ruins. Its windows were broken, its roof caved in from decades of neglect, but the crumbling walls provided just enough shelter for men who thrived in darkness. Inside, the gang drank and laughed, their voices bouncing off the rotten beams. Empty bottles littered the floor, while the sharp smell of cheap whiskey and cigarette smoke filled the air. In the corner, Emily sat huddled against the wall. Her small hands clutched the fabric of her dress, her tear-streaked face hidden behind strands of messy blonde hair. She wanted to scream for her mother, but each time she tried, one of the men glared at her with eyes that promised pain. Still, every so often, a quiet sob escaped her lips. Those cries did not go unheard. Marcus Johnson, 30 years old, walked along a narrow dirt path that twisted through the same woods. He had no home to return to, no job to anchor him, and no family waiting. Society had pushed him to the margins. Lazy, dangerous, unreliable, they said, though none of them knew his story. To most people in the city, Marcus was invisible. Yet tonight, the invisible man heard what others could not. At first, he thought it was the wind. A faint, high-pitched sound carried through the trees. But then it came again, clearer, sharper. The cry of a child. Marcus stopped, heart pounding. He scanned the dark woods, unsure if his mind was playing tricks. The sound came once more, a desperate plea. "Help! Somebody help me!" Something inside Marcus shifted. He could have walked away, as he often did when trouble arose. But this was different. This was a child. Guided by instinct, he followed the sound, pushing through branches until the ruin appeared before him. He crouched low, careful not to draw attention. Through a crack in the wall, he saw them, the gang of kidnappers, drunk and careless, and the little girl who trembled in silence. His fists clenched. Memories of his own childhood, of a younger sister he had once protected on the rough streets of Chicago, surged within him. He could not let this child suffer. Not tonight. Marcus scanned the surroundings. A rusted metal rod leaned against the broken porch. He picked it up, feeling the weight in his hands. He had no plan, no backup, and no guarantee he would survive. But sometimes a man doesn't need guarantees, only the courage to do what's right. He whispered to himself, "Hang on, little one. I'm coming." And with that, Marcus stepped out of the shadows, ready to face the wolves inside the ruin. The old farmhouse seemed to tremble as Marcus stepped through the doorway, gripping the rusted metal rod like a soldier walking into battle. The kidnappers turned, surprised by the sudden intrusion. Their laughter died instantly. "Who the hell are you?" one of them snarled, stumbling forward with a beer bottle still in his hand. Marcus didn't answer. His eyes locked on Emily, who sat frozen against the wall, wide-eyed, too scared even to breathe. That was all the reason he needed. The first kidnapper lunged. Marcus swung the rod, striking the man's arm with a crack that sent the bottle flying. Another rushed him from the side, throwing a punch that landed square on Marcus's ribs. Pain exploded through him, but he refused to fall. He gritted his teeth and swung again, catching his attacker across the shoulder. Chaos erupted. 3 men against 1, fists and curses flying in the dim light. The stench of alcohol made their movements sloppy, but Marcus was outnumbered. A fist split his lip. A boot slammed into his stomach, forcing him backward. He gasped for air, the world spinning. But then his eyes flickered back to Emily. The child's trembling face was enough to drag him up again. With a roar, Marcus surged forward. He fought not with skill, but with desperation. Every blow he landed carried the weight of years of rejection, of being told he was worthless, of being left behind by a society that judged him by skin before character. Tonight he would prove them wrong, if not for himself, then for the girl who needed him. One by one, the kidnappers faltered. The first collapsed after Marcus drove the rod into his chest, knocking the wind out of him. The second stumbled backward, blood streaming from his nose. The third, the leader, cursed and pulled a knife from his belt. Emily whimpered, covering her eyes. Marcus squared up, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his brow. The blade flashed under the broken light bulb. The leader lunged. Time slowed. Marcus sidestepped, grabbing the man's wrist. They struggled, muscles straining until Marcus twisted hard. The knife clattered to the floor. In a final surge, Marcus slammed the rod against the man's head, sending him crashing down beside his partners. Silence filled the ruin, broken only by Marcus's ragged breathing. His body ached, blood dripped from a gash on his arm, and his knuckles burned, but he was still standing. Slowly, carefully, he lowered the rod. He turned to Emily, his voice softer than she expected. "You're safe now, little one. They won't hurt you anymore." Emily blinked, then inched forward, tears streaking her cheeks. Are you a good guy?" she whispered. Marcus knelt, wincing from his wounds, and offered a faint smile. "I'm not sure the world thinks so, but tonight, I'm here for you." She hesitated, then slipped her tiny hand into his. For the first time that night, Marcus felt something more powerful than pain, purpose. And with that, the unlikely guardian led her out of the shadows of the ruin, unaware of the storm waiting back at her home. The city lights shimmered in the distance as Marcus carried Emily out of the forest. His body ached with every step, but he kept moving, one arm protectively wrapped around the little girl. She clung to him tightly, resting her head against his shoulder, her small voice trembling every so often with questions. "Are they gone?" she asked. Marcus nodded, though he wasn't sure the kidnappers wouldn't come back. "They won't touch you again. You're safe now." By the time they reached the edge of the Harrison estate, the mansion was swarming with flashing red and blue lights. Police cruisers lined the driveway, officers moving in and out as Charles and Catherine Harrison stood in the middle, their faces pale with anguish. The crowd gasped when Marcus appeared, battered, bloodied, and holding the missing child. Emily lifted her head. "Mommy!" she cried. Catherine ran forward, arms outstretched. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she grabbed Emily from Marcus's arms and hugged her tightly, almost crushing her in desperation. Charles followed, relief washing over his face at the sight of his daughter alive. For a fleeting second, gratitude filled the air, but then suspicion poisoned it. Catherine's tearful eyes darted to Marcus. She saw the cuts on his arms, the blood on his shirt, the roughness of a man who didn't belong in mansions or among millionaires. Her voice, sharp and fearful, cut through the night. "He's the one! He took her! Arrest him!" Marcus froze. The words hit him harder than any fist. Police officers immediately surrounded him, guns raised, shouts echoing. Marcus raised his hands, confused and exhausted. "Wait, I didn't..." Charles grabbed Emily's shoulders. "Sweetheart, is this the man who hurt you?" Emily's eyes widened. She looked at Marcus. who stood silently, his gaze lowered, shame and disbelief heavy in his posture. The officers began to cuff his wrists. Catherine's voice broke again. "He's dangerous! Look at him. He fits the profile." Marcus's chest tightened. He had expected suspicion from strangers, but not here, not after risking everything. His lips parted, but no words came. What could he say? No one ever believed men like him. Then Emily spoke, her voice small but firm. "No, Daddy, he didn't hurt me. He saved me." The entire scene froze. Officers paused, looking back at the girl. Charles knelt beside her, confusion in his eyes. "Are you sure, Emily? Tell me the truth." Emily nodded quickly, tears dripping down her cheeks. "The bad men took me. They locked me in a scary house. This good uncle, he fought them. He saved me. He even gave me chocolate when I was scared." The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Catherine's face flushed with shame as murmurs spread among the officers. Slowly, the cuffs slipped from Marcus's wrists. He stood still, staring at the ground, unwilling to meet anyone's eyes. For him, the damage was already done. He had stepped from the shadows to save a child, only to be branded a villain the moment he emerged into the light. The tension at the Harrison estate lingered. Even after the officers lowered their weapons, Marcus stood silently, wrists raw from the cold metal cuffs, his shoulders heavy with humiliation. He had stepped into danger without hesitation. Yet here he was, suspected, accused, and nearly condemned before the truth had a chance to breathe. Emily clung to her father's leg, tugging until Charles crouched down to listen. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. "He's not a bad man. He saved me. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here." Charles turned, his eyes falling on Marcus. For the first time, he really looked, not just at the battered clothes or the scarred hands, but at the quiet strength in the man's posture, the bruises that spoke of a fight waged for someone else's child. Catherine, red-faced and ashamed, finally lowered her gaze. Her earlier accusation echoed in her mind, louder than the sirens. She had let fear and prejudice speak before reason. Emily's words cut through that blindness like a blade. One of the officers cleared his throat. "Sir, based on the girl's statement, this man isn't a suspect. In fact, he might have just saved your daughter's life." Charles stepped forward, offering his hand. "Mr. Johnson," Marcus replied quietly. "Marcus Johnson." "Mr. Johnson," Charles said. His tone softened. "I owe you more than I can ever repay. You put yourself in danger for my daughter. That's something money alone can't measure." Marcus shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. I just couldn't walk away." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Charles asked the question no one expected. "What do you do for work?" Marcus gave a bitter chuckle. "Nothing. Can't keep a job. Nobody wants a homeless black man. They say customers don't like it, that I'll ruin business. So I get pushed out before I even start." His voice cracked at the end, though he tried to hide it. Emily, still clutching her father's hand, looked up. "Daddy, can he stay with us? He's a good uncle." "He needs a home, too." Charles glanced at Catherine. She hesitated, then slowly nodded, tears filling her eyes. At last, she understood the weight of her mistake. Charles straightened, determination in his voice. "Mr. Johnson, I want you in my company. Not as a charity case, but because anyone brave enough to do what you did tonight has the heart of a leader. Starting tomorrow, you'll be one of my managers." Marcus blinked, stunned. For a man who had lived in shadows, unwanted and unseen, the offer was more than a job. It was dignity, a chance to stand tall in the light. He swallowed hard, emotions threatening to spill over. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." Emily ran to Marcus and hugged him tightly. "Told you, Daddy, he's a good uncle." For the first time in years, Marcus smiled, not the weary smile of survival, but the genuine smile of a man who finally belonged. That night, beneath the glow of police lights and the tears of a grateful family, a new story began. The millionaire's daughter was safe, but more than that, a forgotten man had been given back his place in the world. And in the heart of the Harrison estate, hope replaced suspicion, proving that sometimes heroes come from the shadows, and sometimes the shadows are where true light is born. If you enjoyed The Man in the Shadows, don't forget to like the story to show your support. Subscribe, follow for more thrilling tales filled with suspense, heart, and hope. Comment below What would you have done if you were in Marcus's shoes? Do you believe heroes can rise from the shadows? Your thoughts keep the story alive, and who knows? Your comment might inspire the next chapter in this journey.